So let me take a roll without any ado, but welcome the 32nd RTM to one of the first of many meetings for the next 2 years. All right, I'll say your name, you say you're here. If you don't say you're here, you're not. Adams.
Here.
Bailey.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Casper.
Here.
Casari.
Here.
Chase.
Here.
Colin.
Here.
Crockett Hubbard.
Here.
Dean Shinbrot.
Here.
DeSealer Fleming.
Here.
Driscoll.
Here.
Eben.
Here.
Flax.
Here.
Fortner.
Here.
Foster Chase.
Here.
There he is. Frickman. Gothier. David, that was David. Laura and Gothier.
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
Hanscom.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Katowski.
Here.
Lambert.
Here.
Melo Miller.
Here.
Merritt.
Here.
Osman.
Here.
Perry.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
Oh, yep, Sean. Kristen Powers. Kristen Powers.
Here.
Okay. 28, 29. Richards.
Here.
Rusk.
Here.
Salva.
Here.
Starkley.
Here.
Stevenson. Washington.
Here.
Wells.
Here.
Whitehouse.
Here.
Whitney.
Here.
Okay, there we go. 37 at call. Now, if I could ask you to rise and have a moment of silence for the lovely life that we're leading, and to have the strength to do right for the town of Groton. And if I could have Representative-elect Merritt lead us in the pledge, please. If you could remain standing, sorry. And I'm going to administer the oath of office. If you'll raise your right hand, if you have a right hand. And do you solemnly swear that you will follow the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, the Town Charter for the Town of Groton, and the rules of the 32nd RTM once they're adopted, right now the 31st, to the best of your ability, and do right for the Town of Groton as long as you live in the Town of Groton?
I do.
Well, congratulations. Now you are true members. All right, so I need a motion from the floor from one of you to adopt the 31st rules temporarily. As you'll have to, oh, there we go, Whitehouse. Second from Frickman, thank you. So it's a matter of adopting rules to run the meeting. So we do have an agenda, but you have to have rules. So now we have a motion on the floor and a seconded. All those in favor of adopting temporarily adopting the 31st RTM rules, say aye.
Aye.
There was an aye there. And any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, unanimous. That's great. All right. And now, okay, now that we have rules, is there a motion on the floor for something that I'm looking for? We have some vacancies in 3 districts, and so now that you're actually voting members of the RTM, we can have what we call caucuses of those districts. But I need a motion to recess in order to do that.
I'll make a motion to recess.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we'll take a brief recess.
All in favor?
Oh, no, we don't have to do that. No, the recess doesn't need a favor. So we'll take, it won't take more than 5 minutes, so don't leave. Okay. Ready? Recess, wink, 7:50 PM, okay. While we were recessed, there were 3 elections, and I'm pleased to announce that District 1, we now have an additional representative. Her name is, where is her name? Lisa Luck. In the 2nd District, we have Ian Thomas. And in the 6th District, we have Katrina Fitzgerald. Congratulations, and thank you again for volunteering. This is a terrific body to serve on. I'll lay all the accolades at another time. Right now we have business. And the next order of business is number 3 on the agenda, and that is election of moderator. So I will entertain any motions that I see on the floor. Oh, Representative Melo Miller.
I would like to represent, oh, sorry. I would like to nominate Sima Eben.
Okay, we've got one motion. Any other motions? Any other nominations, I mean? Okay, no other nominations, so I will, I really don't need a vote, but I will take a vote. All those in favor of Sima Eben as our 32nd RTM moderator, say aye. Aye. And there we go. I don't need any no's. Come on up. Bring all your stuff. Come on up. We'll need a couple minutes, so here we go. Another recess. I'm sorry.
Should I ask Betsy?
But I have to wait for the moderator.
Where are they?
Okay, yes, I did. It was 2 years ago. Well, 2 years ago went fast, right? So now as part of the procedure, I will give you the oath as moderator, and then so you will raise your right hand, and you solemnly and sincerely swear or affirm that you will faithfully discharge according to Groton Town Charter and the rules of the representative town meeting your duties as moderator of the RTM to the best of your ability.
I do.
And here it is, to you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Well, we have one regret from Representative Stevenson that he was not able to be with us tonight. So we'll see him in January, I guess. The first item on our agenda, first of all, I want to just welcome you all. Welcome to new members and welcome to returning members. You know, I'm excited to be part of that 32nd RTM. 32nd, it's crazy. And so the first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our November 13th meeting. So I hope you've all had a chance to go through them. Do we have a motion on the floor to accept? Representative Adams, and a second from Representative Powers. Is there any discussion of those minutes? No? Seeing, oh, there are a couple of things.
Yeah, just a typo.
There's a typo apparently, but that will be corrected. Seeing no comments, all in favor of accepting the November 13th minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Lisa abstains.
Lisa.
Thank you. That motion carries. The next item is citizens' petitions. This is the portion of the RTM agenda where the RTM welcomes comments from citizens. Each presentation should be limited to 10 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments as well. Presentations should be limited to matters pertinent to Groton. Myself or members through me shall ask questions only in order to clarify the speaker's presentation. Responses may be given to me responses may be given by myself or the town manager, and citizens should make their presentations from the lectern and state their name and address for the record. Do we have a,
You want me to sign up?
what?
I'll look at it.
Yeah, there are at least 3 people signed up. Okay. So while we're waiting, I just want to say that I'm going to solicit people who are interested in being liaisons for the Golf Advisory Committee, the Economic Development Commission, the Town Council, the Board of Ed, and the Trails Committee. So if you are interested in being a liaison, you can email me kind of offline or let me know after the meeting, okay? And so it's a great service to this body to have people report on those meetings. I find it very useful. So, all right, we do have 4 people signed up. First is Mayor Patrice Granatowski.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Patrice Granatowski, 30 North Prospect Street, Groton, Connecticut. I just wanted to say welcome to RTM. Lots of returning faces, lots of familiar faces, and some old friends back. So it's great to have everybody here. Thank you for your service. The town can't function without all of you, and we appreciate you devoting your time and energy to make this possible, and we trust that you will make good decisions for the people of Groton. And thank you very much, and congratulations, Madam Moderator, and to the 2 floor leaders, Representative Melo Miller and I believe Representative Flax. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Liz Raisbeck.
Good evening. I'm Liz Raisbeck with Groton Conservation Advocates, and we're a local advocacy group for the environment, focusing on the environment here in Groton. And I just wanted to bring your attention this evening that the Council Committee of the Whole last night passed a very important environmental bill, an ordinance to ban single-use plastics in the town of Groton. This ordinance will then be voted on the 1st of January, the first week of January, and it will come before you starting in January. And we encourage you to look into it very carefully. We think it's great for the town of Groton to reduce our plastics. In fact, much of this ordinance is already being complied with by the businesses of Groton. 20 towns have passed such similar ordinances in the state of Connecticut so far, and I commend it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Kane.
Hi, good evening. Michael Kane, 51 Jupiter Point Road. A year ago, I spoke here with regard to combining the separate planning and zoning commissions into one planning and zoning commission. That was passed. I was and I remain opposed to that decision. I believe having a larger single commission doesn't allow for the kind of citizen oversight that this town deserves. The process is slowed, but that's for another day. There was a letter that was submitted to you regarding this issue, and I hope that you had an opportunity to read it and learn from it. Many of the points are valid, and I would agree. It is with the logistics of running a larger commission that I have issues. 10 members versus 8. If you've ever attended a planning and zoning commission, they tend to be very long. Every member is encouraged to speak and to weigh in multiple times. The applicant will submit information, often with a team of experts. Town staff offers opinions and valuable direction. This takes a long time. Everyone is given an opportunity to speak. Our meetings are often well attended, and the public participates. In the 17 years that I have served on the Planning Commission, I do not believe there's ever been a decision made with a mere quorum. It just doesn't happen. The people on our commission tend to be older and retired. This is the kind of person who has the time to serve. Having 2 more members will not make us, in my opinion, more representative of the town. What having more people will do is make our ability to listen to the public and to ask those questions that need to be asked more difficult. We work under time constraints. If an application is made and we haven't had the time to listen to all of the public comments, we must act regardless. If not, the application passes. We'll push meetings late into the night and early morning. This is not a time that I work best. I believe your Planning Commission has served this town well with 5 regular members for a very long time. I believe having a larger commission will not necessarily be more representative of the town and will only make good decisions more difficult. Bear in mind, if there are 5 regular members and 3 alternates, and only 3 people showed up, and 2 were to vote against that proposal, the proposal fails. If there were a 7-member group with 3 alternates, and only 4 showed up, a quorum, and these same 2 people were to vote against that proposal, would be a tie. Fails. Having a larger commission doesn't necessarily improve the outcome. The Planning Commission doesn't operate like the RTM. I don't have a personal opinion. An applicant has rights. If the applicant has made a proposal that meets the regulations and we were to deny it, the town could be potentially sued. Commissioners do not deny an applicant because we don't like it personally. We must rely on getting all of the information we need. I believe a larger group will not necessarily improve the outcome. I believe a larger group will make good outcomes more difficult. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Mayor Keith Hendrick.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm Keith Hendrick. I live at 156 Shinnecock Parkway. Congratulations on your election to the 32nd RTM. Congratulations to the floor leaders. Where's Bruce? There you are. Congratulations to the floor leaders and congratulations to the moderator on your election. Some of you are new. 7 years ago, I was in the same place that you are, and the RTM is a wonderful opportunity to learn about the operation of the town. How does the town work? How does the city and town interrelate? How does finances work? How does Board of Ed work? It is a tremendous opportunity to learn about the inner workings of the town. During the budget process, you will be taxed on your time because they're taxed, meaning the amount of time that you're going to put into this. Right? I didn't mean a pun there, but anyway, no pun intended. It is, but it's a heck of a ride, but it's worth it. You're going to learn so much, and the decisions that you make will represent all the residents of the town of Groton. So good luck to you, and best wishes in all your decisions. Thank you for what you do. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, that is it. Are there any other public citizens who wish, Councilor Bordelon?
Portia Bordelon, 159 Shinnecock Parkway. For full disclosure, I'm also a town councilor. I just also couldn't help but to say congratulations to everybody that's back, new faces. Some of you I knocked doors with, and it's been a fun time, and you should be very proud. It's my favorite body of government in the town. It has true minority representation. It has district representation, and you have a chance to have a piece in all different areas. So a word of advice, I guess, or something that I learned from, this is where I started, and I It really helps to new members if your budget book from this year that you have, you might write some notes. There might be some things that aren't passed the way that you want them to be passed, or you're questioning or looking at it and think that maybe this fund should be changed differently. That then helps you the following year when you get that new budget book to go back to those old notes. So use that book as a reference as you go through. I know that I use mine, and that has helped me. Even the first year that I was on, ask another fellow RTM member who may have a book from the following year, and dive into it now. Look through it. Start seeing what those numbers look like. Another thing that is also very helpful, if you can't attend the town council meetings, another great tool is print out the thing online, the agenda, watch the meeting and take notes where you want, record the meetings, and that way when you come in, you kind of might feel that you have more information, because it is hard to attend both meetings. But anyway, congratulations to everybody. I'm so excited. One of, well, not my favorite, but one of the new members on here, Albert, representative for District 3. I think he's like 20 years old. I think that's awesome. And I think he truly represents that area, and I'm very excited. But, you know, good luck to all you guys.
Thank you. I was remiss in, the town clerk reminded me that we did get a correspondence from Natalie Burfoot Billing regarding the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'll read the first paragraph, but everyone has received this letter in their packet, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. But she wrote to ask to consider vetoing the ordinance regarding reducing the size of the Planning and Zoning Commission from 7 to 5 members. I realize for some of you this is your first RTM meeting, and this may seem like a daunting vote and a lot to ask. I'm sorry that the timing is such that it must be acted on tonight. However, I hope you'll consider my points and recognize that vetoing this ordinance only means that the commission would stay as it is now, 7 members. It sounds ominous to veto an ordinance passed by the council. In this case, it's simply a matter of disagreeing with decreasing the number of people who serve on the body. Nothing would be disrupted. Things would simply continue as they are rather than changing. I have tremendous respect for the town council, as I'm sure you do. I simply disagree with them. So having said that, I think we can move on, seeing no more citizens' input. The next item on our agenda is to appoint a temporary rules committee, Rules and Procedures Committee, that will develop the rules of the 32nd RTM. Those rules will be voted on at our January meeting and have to be passed by a 2/3 majority. At this point, I'm just going to list who I've appointed. If anyone I note on this it has a real issue with being on this, please see me and I'll consider a replacement. But I have appointed Kate Richards as the chairman, Nancy Melo Miller, Bruce Flax, Kathy Chase, and Wilmer Lambert. Is there any, no? I don't think we have to vote on that. That's just an appointment, so we can move on from there. The next item is I guess I jumped the gun on the communications, sorry about that. So I think I've read you my communications. We have the report of the town manager, Mr. Burt.
Good evening. First, congratulations to everyone and welcome back, or welcome to new members. You will note on the town manager's news that there is no financial statement this time. We had a catastrophic failure of something like 8 servers all at the same time a few days ago, and we're still recovering from that. So it's been quite a pain this week. I'll send that out though once it's prepared, once the software is back up and running. Few items, just to update you on a few things. Community center, as you know, there was a lead found there a while back. New water lines are currently being installed, as well as new drinking fountains. That should all be done within the next week or two, so that's just about wrapped up. A conduit has been run for a fiber line to go into that building, just waiting for the contractor to come put the fiber line in. The Groton sale, where we're looking at the library, the road right-of-way there is a potential location. DOT gave preliminary approval on that, but we're waiting on the appraisal for how much the Groton Sale Committee would have to pay to obtain that property. We're expecting January to hear that. I'm sure you probably heard about the visit from Kingston, Jamaica. The city of Groton, the city of New London, and the town of Groton hosted His Worship, Mr. Delroy Williams, the mayor of Kingston, Jamaica, as well as Robert Hill, the town clerk, which is the equivalent of my position there, and the consul general out of LCN Wilson out of New York. We had many council members and some RTM members participate in that. So looking at sister city status potentially, we'll see where that goes. It was a very great visit though. It's been a while since I've mentioned this. We've been trying for quite a while to make some changes to new employees for retirement benefits. We did do our first union contract. It's a small contract, but we have made that change to a small group. We're looking at doing the non-union next. It requires some ordinance updates, and it's been a lot more complicated than we had thought. It's taking a while, but we're closing in on it hopefully soon. It was already mentioned about the plastics ban. That will be approved on January 7th. The RTM, I believe, meets the 8th.
We have 45 days to veto.
Right, so hoping we can get it on as communication on the 8th so that it can be referred to committee. Let's see, website redesign, a contractor's been selected, and hopefully in the next 4 months or so, that's the given timeline, we'll have a new town website. And then the council has been discussing whether we should create town emails for each of the RTM members. So you'd have an email for official business the way that town employees and council members do. Like mine is jburt@groton-ct.gov. And they asked me to poll you to see if you're interested in having that official email address. Can I see just a show of hands if you're interested in having a town email address for your official business? It was like a good number. Okay, I'll report that back to the council.
How much does it cost?
It's about a little under $2,000 per year for the licenses.
So maybe we don't need it.
Yeah. And the one good thing for me, the two good things for me, one is, as you know, we received, those of you who have been on returning members, we had a FOIA recently. Well, it's much more difficult when you don't have town officially. Of course, if you do work business, I'm sure you know this, but if you do work business on a private email account, if you're doing work, town-related government business, it's still FOIAble, Freedom of Information Act. But hopefully with a government account, you would do most of it on there, and our IT could pull things up in the events of FOIA, so it makes things a little easier. And I do send updates once in a while to the RTM, so it's kind of nice to have that uniform structure for me to be easier to communicate. But
Can you just refer your questions to me, and I'll call on you? It's fine, but that's how we do it. Just raise your hand, and I'll say, Representative Osman, you got it. Then take the microphone.
So as far as the licenses are concerned, can you explain that to me a bit further?
well, you have to
It's
pay. I
part of
think
the
it's
same
about.
domain?
It's a. I'm not an IT guy, but my
I
understanding.
am an IT guy, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around $45 per license per year for each one. We have about 270 that the town has. We have a little over 200. We use all but a couple of them right now. So adding on, we would have to buy each of those licenses per
Okay.
year.
Thank you.
And I did notice that there are copies of, we've been discussing here Board of Ed for the grant approval process for, and I just blinked, let me see if the copies here. The grant approval process for grants greater than 10,000 for categorical grants, things that didn't go through the budget process that come up subsequently. We did meet a group of us, Moderator Eben, Superintendent Grenier, myself, Kim Watson, the Board of Ed, Representative Whitney was there, and Mayor Graditowski. Essentially, we took the legal opinions, the charter, and our own town processes and put together that document, and I think it came out very good. So if you get a chance, it's over there. They did present it to the council last night. So, and I brought along the good news guy.
Yeah, I just want to comment that I hope that we will use the point on our agenda for the report of the superintendent to discuss that policy document. Okay. Mr. Reiner?
Good evening, congratulations, and welcome back to many of you. My name is John Reiner. I'm the Director of Planning and Development Services for the town. I was just going to give a very brief overview of some of the economic development updates of things that we're currently working on. So many of you know one of the big priorities that we've been working on is the marketing of excess town and/or state properties within the town. A few weeks back, we had a public unveiling of the proposed development at the Mystic Education Center. That's something that still has to go through a very lengthy public process, creating a zoning district for it, but it's something we have a preferred developer that we, the town, and the state have been working together on for somewhere between a $200 to $250 million redevelopment project for that property, looking at somewhere between 700 and 850 multifamily residential housing units, a mixed-use development including office space, retail, a small market, a complete reconstruction and reuse of the Pratt Building, which many of you may remember was there's a pool there. It would be utilized by the town as a recreation center for town residents as well as people that would live at this new development, as well as a substantial amount of open space preservation of that property, everything going down to the Mystic River. There could be some passive like hiking trails as well as some improvements to the existing boat ramp that's down on River Road. So that's something, there's a signed purchase and sales agreement for that property between Reshpler Homes and the state. They have a signed lease agreement to lease the property before they buy it so that they can secure the property. That hasn't been approved yet at the State Properties Committee, but that's something that's working through. And the town staff is working with the developer on a development agreement, kind of outlining some of the assumptions of things that we'll be moving forward with. That's something that'll go to the town council for approval sometime in the next few months. In addition to that property, there's the Gold Star Highway property, which is a piece that we've owned for a number of years that we received through tax foreclosure. We did a public marketing as well as RFP process. We selected a preferred developer. They have signed an option agreement on the property. It was approved by the town council for approximately 300 multifamily housing units. These are all market rate or higher type of units. The Sealy School, we are working with a potential preferred developer on that property. Again, we put an RFP out on the street. We did a lot of marketing for that property. Once that preferred developer is selected by the town council, there'll be a public unveiling of the proposed development there. There'll be public outreach as well as going through the planning and zoning process for all of these properties. The Colonel Ledyard School, we had been marketing that. We put that out to RFP. We had some interviews with developers a few weeks back, and we're working towards bringing a preferred developer recommendation to the town council. Groton Heights, that's a property we signed an option or a letter of intent with Thera Mahon, an existing business in town. They're looking to build a second facility in town at the Groton Heights School. We're currently working with them on a purchase and sales agreement, as well as finalizing some language with the state. We received a $225,000 brownfields grant on that property to help fix up and clean up some of the that property. And the Pleasant Valley School, we're currently marketing that property, and we expect to issue an RFP for the redevelopment of that site sometime late spring of this year. Most of these sites, we're looking at multifamily housing, market rate or higher end multifamily housing on these properties. In addition, the Planning and Zoning Commission a few months back approved a new 102-room hotel over by Winding Hollow Road and Route 184. They're going through the building permit process for that, so that's something that'll be under construction sometime in the near future. Sometime soon, we will be getting a Chipotle in town. They have submitted their building permit, and they're just working with our office on the last pieces of that. And a few other pieces of good news. The town did receive our Sustainable Connecticut certification a couple of months back, as well as the CDAS, the Connecticut Economic Development Association, had awarded Groton an award for best practices in economic development. And lastly, we've been working for a number of months on a revised economic development strategy, kind of looking at the staff level, working with the city about things that we can do moving forward over the next few years on economic development and continue the momentum that we have. Sometime in January, we'll be having a public meeting to talk about that plan as we're wrapping that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Reiner? Representative Merritt?
Yes, referencing Thera Mahon, you said a second site or a second building on the present site?
So I was actually referring to, they're going to keep, right now Thera Mahon has a facility on Leonard Drive right by the airport. They will keep that facility. at Groton Heights, that will be a second facility that Thera Mahon will be occupying. Their long-term plan would be to build an addition onto the Groton Heights building where the, adjacent to where the existing gymnasium was added, and that addition would mirror the architecture of what's proposed there, of what exists there on site.
Have they secured that property yet?
They're working with the library at this point in time.
But they haven't secured the property that they're looking to buy yet.
Well, they're looking to buy the property from the town, a portion of it, which they have a letter of intent. So we have not signed a purchase and sales agreement with them, nor have they signed a purchase and sales agreement with the library to do the land transfer for that second phase that they're looking to build. But it's something that all parties have kind of a handshake agreement on it, but it's something they're still working on.
Thank you.
And I also failed to mention the town did receive a $1.5 million community development block grant to do some additional work in town on some of our affordable housing stock.
Any other questions for either Mr. Byrd or Mr. Reiner? Representative Chase?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So the vote that you took for the emails, is that standing or?
That was just to get kind of feedback to relay back to the council. They just asked me to poll, get an unofficial poll and bring it back to them for further discussion.
Did you want to do that again now that we know it costs money?
Okay. Who would like to have via town emails, official town email addresses? Who's interested in that? Please raise your hand. Okay. Thank you.
Representative Melo Miller?
Thank you. No, I just wanted to suggest, I love hearing about the economic development. In the future, if you have reports for us, if you have it all written up, maybe included in the packet that we get for the town manager, because then that way we have it, because I love all the information I'm hearing, but sometimes like I can't write it down fast enough. So if just in the future, if you could include it, if that's possible, that would be nice. So then we can have it. Thank you.
Representative Washington?
I have a question for the town manager. Is the air quality report for Northeast Academy in?
Yeah, yes, it is posted online. I'd send a link to the council. I can send it to the RTM also. So I don't have everybody's email addresses yet, so I may have to get that from the
Can you
clerk.
give us the highlights of the report?
I haven't fully read it yet, because I didn't commission the report to the Board of Ed, so I don't know if they have anything they want to mention on it, but I don't feel qualified yet to report on it, but I will send that link out.
Representative Katowski?
Thank you. I have two questions for the town manager, and I'm sorry I didn't send them ahead of time like I usually do. But if you don't have the information with you, maybe you can just get back to me or back to us. The first thing is about the SCAR contract. I heard it was switched from Preston to Lisbon, and if that's true, did our fee increase?
My understanding is the switch was to reduce the cost.
Okay. The second thing is I got an email from one of my neighbors regarding the town council discussion on the sidewalks on 184 in the basketball courts in Deerfield and Fieldcrest. And they want to switch $20,000 to the court from the sidewalk because the state's going to fix the sidewalk. And her concern is that there's a bridge out in Old Mystic, and Stonington has dedicated money, and she feels that we need the bridge a lot more than basketball courts. So I was just wondering what's going on with that.
Sure. And really, so with the basketball court, if you remember, one of them was just going to be a repair rather than a full redo. And the RTM, many of the members had asked, hey, can you try to come up with funding to do it the right way? So we've been looking for opportunities where we could save money, find a place out of existing program money to do that. And then the other basketball court came in overbid, so we needed more money for that too. Apparently one basketball company that does that type of work went out of business, so the other ones picked up more work, and there goes the prices. The state took over that 184 work, which means that we would close out that, at some point, we'd close out that at the end of this year, that CIP. So we just identified that as a potential source for that. By the way, I do have a meeting with the new select men in Stonington to talk about the bridge. I've already put that on our radar, and I'm planning on putting our portion in my list unless something unforeseen happens. So, and that money, the grant money, just as a reminder, there's 50% of that cost is available at the state. That money does still exist. And then Stonington and Groton would each pay 25% of it. So.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Burt? No? All right, thank you. So the next item I had hoped to speak on, because I believe that was the economic development report, so would be, I don't know if the chair of the Board of Ed, Watson, would like to come up, and we could, hopefully everyone's read through this, but maybe Chair Watson will lead us through this policy that we've developed to deal with grants that the Board of Ed receives. Thank you.
Happy to do that. First of all, I would like to say congratulations, and for those who have served before, welcome back, and for those who are new, welcome. And I'm very excited, and also excited for the moderator. Exciting times for the town of Groton, and how many units that are going to be planned to come in for the town is really very exciting, and because Groton is a phenomenal place to live, as we all know. Yeah, I would be more than happy to speak to the document that was put together. Once again, the town manager has spoken about that, and really what it is that it's just kind of clearing up the process, and this is really what the town process is. What we wanted to do, just to make sure, is that there are two different grants that is different than the town. Other departments in the town, is the difference between the categorical and the competitive grants. So the categorical grants are the ones that you would see, actually you also see it in our budget summary as well as the competitive, but the categorical grants are your Title I. It's what the district receives, and the town, correct? To receive to support the educational needs of the district. So Title I is for, I had that all in my mind, and now that I'm in front of everyone, I have forgotten all about it. But I think you understand what I mean, is that that's the Title I, the Title II, the Title IV. I think the Perkins grant is part of the categorical grants, and that supports some of our vocational Project Lead the Way grants. The one that has caused some agita for people has been the competitive grants, and that is sort of the competitive grants are that, as it says in the write-up, is that one-time grant that we get, and that is for what we do for the lineup. That is written down, is that once we are notified of the grant, let me back up. Before we even apply for the grant, the Board of Ed has a process in itself, which is what we review, what we're going to be going for. We do have the support of Sharon Weigel, who is our grant writer, and she. It gets noted that there's a grant that we might be interested in. The last couple ones that we've had have been the DODEA, which is the defense grants. And once that gets to the board, we go to look at efficacy. We look at whether it's going to help the district, and what is very important to the board, but specifically to me, is sustainability. If we're going to have this grant, and it's going to be giving us a lot of money, after the grant is over, then what? And so we tend to make sure that most of our grants have a lot of professional development in them. So it's like a train-the-trainer model, so that we have teachers that get, or staff members that get trained in it, and that they can then train the staff that's already there, and then also when we have new teachers or new staff that come in to do that. So that is sort of what our process is. And for the competitive, brings it down to, once we hear that we are most likely going to get the grant, it then gets flagged, and I'm now going to have to read along with you guys, is that it kind of, we send a tickler to the town manager, and the town manager gets it onto the agenda. I think part of the discussion that was had, and once again, Sima and John and Patrice is gone, but no, she's there, to help remind me, is that sometimes there's a quick turnaround sometimes, and that we've been, we're really, the process of trying to move it as quick as possible to get it to the town council, to get it to a vote, to then get it to your body so that you can kind of take a look at it, so that the district doesn't lose out on the opportunity to do that. It's really important to have competitive grants because it allows for the district to, some of our magnet programs are through the grant programs that we got with the expectant, and so it's kind of really important to do that. So that speaks to that document. And I know that one of the grants that people have had some concerns about, and that we have, our food service has received, is the Farm to Table grant, and I just thought I would just speak to that so that you guys would hear from that. And so if you could give me 2 seconds just to turn on my phone. And so it's called the Farm to School Funds, and it's through a Hendrick Foundation. And the Food Service Department was awarded this grant of $84,174. And the major principle of this grant was professional development for our teachers and school principals regarding the Food to School program. We have, in the district for the past couple of years, we have had the pleasure of having someone who is a food corps person. And I can explain it in my head. Every time I try to explain it outside my head, it doesn't go well. Sorry. But it's really to sort of have our district be able to really kind of hold on to the importance of having partnerships with our local farms, our local produce people, and if you know, we do have a really good relationship with the Whittles Farm and others. And the food corps person, and who is now also going to be funded for the next 2 years through this grant, brings students into taking a look at gardening. So if you go to some of the school sites, you see that we have vegetable gardens, and so the students go through the whole process. They also do taste night. So and they bring their families and to taste some of the vegetables and the fruits that they have made throughout the summer. Obviously, a lot of the time during the summer is when the growing period is, and there's not a lot of students, but that person is also there. So, and there's a lot of just involvement for kids who may not have experience of doing that. So that is the purpose sort of that grant, and it is a 2-year. And the other one is the USDA for a Farm to School grant, which is the $100,000, and that is actually what I've just talking about. I just actually kind of combined both of them, but that is also the Food to Table. That's the education around how do you do a garden, why is eating good foods important to you. I don't know if you've ever been into the school. Oftentimes there's people from the food service program, and they go into and they have kids taste different tastes, and so that they can see that they might actually really like fruits and vegetables, or there's different ways to doing it. So that is the 2 programs. It also, the grant allows us to, sorry, let me just finish the paragraph. Because I'm obviously not doing very well, just kind of like talking to my mind. So.
You can sit down if you want to.
No.
I just want to mention that the chair of the Board of Ed is an ex officio member of this body, so as are the town councilors and the mayor and the town manager.
So it allows us to continue and expand locally sourced fresh fruits and vegetables for our students at all levels. The funds will be used to expand purchases of local produce as well as a freezer to process the fresh foods. And the grant will also allow us to extend our food corps coordinator for the additional 2 years. So that's what those monies are for. And so if you think about it, many of our kids, when they get frozen food, are actually frozen food that is really fresh because it's coming from the local area. So. Once again, it's our efforts to make sure that our children and our families get the best that they can from our district.
Well, thank you. Are there any Representative Katowski?
Hi. Thank you for following through with this. I have two questions. So the farm to table grants, those are both competitive grants, correct?
That is.
And there were two, one for 84,000 and one for 100,000?
Okay, so the Henry, I'm going to read the two paragraphs.
Okay.
Okay? Because I might have confused myself as well. So you ready?
Yeah.
So the Henry Kendall Foundation awarded the Food Service Department an $84,174 grant, which will be used primarily to fund professional development for teachers regarding farm-to-school principles. So yeah.
So
Farm-to-school grant is the $100,000, and that will allow us to continue and expand locally sourced fresh fruits and vegetables for our students at all levels.
Okay, so that's wonderful that we have these grants, but I have a question about the food court person. So I have a question of what happens to the position of the food court person in 2 years when the grant ends, and also I have the same question about the middle school magnet grant. When that runs out, what is the plan for the staff that's currently being paid for by the middle school magnet grant?
So I'm not wanting to confuse the matter. My understanding is, or this is how I would operate, and I'm only one person of the board, is that if there is no monies available to fund that position and the grant is over, the grant is over. And that position is over. Okay. I have spent most of my professional life on grants, and when the grant runs out, the grant runs out. But am I going to tell you that we might not apply for another grant to sustain that? Sure, but we're not there yet. So, and it's the same with the magnet school, is that, well, it's not the same. The magnet school is very different in that the monies were to establish and to put all the professional development into that right away. So it's not as once that money goes, the magnet school goes, because we've already embedded the magnet theme and the magnet professional development within that. Because once again, I feel very committed that if we're going to go for some big grants and some big monies, there better be a huge amount of professional development, because without it, you don't have sustainability. And if you don't have sustainability, why are you doing it? But that's just one, I'm just one person.
Representative Hanscom.
Yeah.
Hello. In my professional duties, I work as the grants manager at Mystic Aquarium, as everyone probably knows. And just in my experience, I was a little concerned about the process as far as once a grant is once you find out that you receive a grant. In my experience, that turnaround time is so quick, and I also. It's something that, I don't normally want to hesitate, usually accept it right away. You want to make sure you get the money. And often the start date of that particular grant period is often like, a few weeks away. So I'm just concerned about the process. And I'm wondering, too, when there would ever be a case where we would reject a grant. I mean, usually when the application process goes through, there's a lot of planning. You've budgeted out every penny. And so, you're ready to go. I can't imagine, rejecting a grant. I would imagine this whole process could be more like informing everyone about the grant that we received, or, I just don't think that there's really should be like a yes or a no. That's just from my experience. But it's up to
Mr.
you.
Burt is going to reply, if that's okay.
Oh, please.
In terms of rejecting, when would you ever reject it? You could have a grant where you're worried about what's going to happen at the end of it. I think those questions often need to be answered. However, the town has run it a couple of times. This is the process that you see here, is that it's pretty much laid out in the town charter, so it's pretty much the process we have to follow. What we do, though, is, like, if we have a quick turnaround that you have to do it, we go ahead and submit it or sign it, and then if for some reason it's rejected at the council or RTM, then we would just say, hey, sorry, our bad, we're going to have to turn it down. Because we're not going to miss a deadline on accepting money. So, but I would also, in those circumstances, try to get information out ahead of time and say, hey, this is what's going on with this.
Representative Frickman.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Two questions, really. One, why the change now? So what has been in the past where we have to make these adjustments right now, compared to what the process has been? I didn't realize that the RTM and the town council had any oversight over our public school budgets. I mean, sorry, not budgets, but grant money.
Representative Pasqualini, during a RTM meeting, had asked for us to get a legal opinion on whether the Board of Ed should be following the same process as the town proper. So we ended up looking at that, and other RTM members had piggybacked on that. Yeah, let's take a look at that, because it wasn't being followed, and then they also had their own attorney take a look at it. And both concurred, yes, the town process should be followed.
All right, so follow-up question. This might be for a rule.
Yeah, it's in the charter, so.
That's
if
fine.
you-
I was just curious on that. I couldn't remember that. I remember we had the conversation last year, but I couldn't remember we followed through with it. The last one, so hypothetically, if it comes back to us, is this a typical 51 vote? I mean, 51% vote, or is it 2/3? Because it's not necessarily a.
Majority.
It's just a simple majority.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on this policy, new policy? We'll have to see how it goes. This is new. We've just put it together. It hasn't been implemented yet.
Well, it's
So-
not new because this is what the town follows. So, I mean,
Yeah,
really, I mean, so it's not a new thing. It's just that we're on board.
Right, okay. It's expanding. So, all right. Thank you so much, Chair Watson.
Thank you very much. And once again, congratulations, guys.
All right, so our agenda doesn't have a section on liaison reports. I just want to ask, are there any liaison reports? Representative Wells, would you like to give us a golf advisory report? I just know, for new members, this is a special treat to have a golf advisory report. You will enjoy it. It shall be the highlight of your evening. Yeah. And I just want to ask, we have Senator Summers sitting in the back. Would you like to speak tonight? I can slot you in. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Well, let's see. We've had less discounting and more play at the golf course, and as a result, the fiscal year-to-date income is 11% greater than it was in the same period, fiscal year-to-date last year. The greens fees have been averaging $32 a round versus $27 a round last year. So they're playing more, and we're getting more money for it. And I know we'll get this out of the way. I know the potty information seems to be perpetual. Port Elec has returned to its more or less original position, but parked close to a tree so it won't be quite as obvious, some of the distance. And the men's club sent a representative to the last meeting, and they're going to bring up the issue of open urination and try to get what it's going to take to get the men golfers under control. On the comfort station, which we thought was over with a long time ago, it's going to be in one of the maintenance sheds, and it's $15,000 for an engineer to plan the lines in and out. There was some concern about, I will skip that, about the trees. They're doing some marketing in the Discover magazine, the winter edition. I was going to suggest you could pick up a copy here in the lobby, but it's not there yet. But the focus of the ad is you spoke, we listened, and it is related to the biennial survey of golfers. And one of the items is the bunkers, which on hole 14, which we approved last year, and it's quite popular. They're getting a lot of positive comments on the course, and I think when they see progress and things being done and stuff better than it was last year or 6 months ago, that helps greatly. They're in the process of setting new rates. Our competitors are Norwich and Elmridge courses. Our greens fees are similar, but the season passes are less. Our season passes are less than at Norwich and Elmridge. Our new associate and associate plus season passes for younger golfers have been a big success. I don't have the actual numbers. They probably wouldn't impress you. They're not like a huge numbers, but there's a lot more than what had previously been done. And instead of doing a 10% increase every few years, they're contemplating a 2 to 3% yearly increases. And let's see, what else? Oh yeah, they're working on a new ranger rate. The rangers are people who are more or less hired to travel the course and make sure everything is shipshape and assist golfers and so on. It's an actual job. But they used to pay them and you'd get a discount for something isn't working out. But now they've decided they're going to have thinking of $100, a deeply discounted seasonal pass for people who are willing to work as rangers. And I think that's about it. They're working on, well, we'll know more about capital improvements. They've got a 5-year plan, and so it should make a little more sense than the usual 50, 100,000, let's fix this or let's fix that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Do you have any questions?
Representative Casper?
Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir.
Representative Chase?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The comfort station that's planned, is that going to be by the 8th hole tee, the maintenance building over there?
Well, they were going to build, yeah, I think this probably is. There's a maintenance building that's going to be added.
Well, there's a maintenance building there now.
Yeah, that's, no. I mean, it's going in an existing building.
Yeah.
So I really never asked them exactly which.
Because I think that's where the women golfers recommended it, or?
Could be. I would not be surprised if that is indeed the place.
Yeah. But I'm curious, on the Golf Advisory Committee, how many women are on there?
Quite a few. The chair is a woman.
Okay,
and,
that's good.
And she's very much in charge. And there's at least one other woman on the Golf Advisory Board.
Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is usually committee reports, which were omitted for some reason. We did have one item that had been referred to the Rules and Procedures Committee. Representative Richards, did you guys have a meeting to discuss that? No. Okay. So if we don't have this, the ordinance that was passed by the town council going through a committee, our option is to suspend the rules and discuss it. So at this point, I guess I would entertain a motion, if that's the body's will, to suspend the rules for the purposes of discussing the ordinance that's attached to your minute. What? It can only, and to clarify that, in our powers in the charter as delineated, we can only veto that ordinance. Okay, so without suspending the rules, it's a tacit acceptance. And so you would. Make a motion to suspend. We have a motion to suspend. Is there a second? Second. Second with Representative Rusk. And to clarify that motion to suspend, it has to be a 2/3 majority of members present. The motion to veto has to be 2/3 of the total membership.
I'm going to do a roll call vote so I can have an exact vote, if you can hear me. Okay. Okay, so representatives, please say yes or no when I call your name. Adams? Oh, I'm sorry. This is a vote to suspend the rules. The rules are that all items go to committee, and if an item didn't go to committee, it has to come to the floor with a suspension of the rules, because it didn't go to committee.
And this motion's not debatable, so we would go right to a vote to suspend.
So if you vote yes to suspend the rules, then it'll allow a motion to veto the ordinance. If you vote no to suspend the rules, you won't get an opportunity to veto.
Well, will it go to committee then?
Excuse me? Use your microphone.
If we vote no, won't the ordinance go to the committee?
No.
As it should?
No. The time
We have
will
45 days to veto it. This is a clock that ticks. It's set in the charter.
December 21st. You could convene again if the body chose to. The 21st of December is the cutoff. The 45-day cutoff. So, that's really kind of you got a motion on the floor. You really can't really do.
Yeah. Sorry.
But you could certainly talk
So
later.
we can't debate this, so I'll ask all in favor, or do you want to do a roll call vote?
Yeah, I have to
We're
do
going to do
a
a roll
roll.
call vote for this motion to suspend the rules, but I'm just trying to clarify the procedure for you guys.
Representative Adams? No. Bailey?
No.
Baker?
No.
Casper? Yes. Kasari?
Yes.
Chase?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Collin?
Yes.
Crocker Hubbard?
Yes.
Dean Shinbrot?
Yes.
DeSilla Fleming?
Yes.
Driscoll?
No.
Eben?
No.
Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Flax?
Yes.
Fortner?
Yes.
Foster Chase?
Yes.
Crickman? Gothier, David? Gothier, Lauren?
Yes.
Gustafson?
No.
Hanscom?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Katowski? Katowski?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Luck?
Yes.
Melo Miller?
Yes.
Merritt?
Abstain.
Osman?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Powers Kristen?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Rusk?
Yes.
Salva?
Yes.
Starkley?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Wells?
No.
Whitehouse?
Yes.
Whitney?
Yes.
Okay, we have 32 in favor, 7 opposed, 1 abstention.
So that passes.
Passes.
So we have now the ability to entertain a motion to veto that, if that's the body's desire.
And then you can discuss the motion.
Representative Richards?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move to veto the ordinance mostly for purpose of discussion of it.
Second. And there's a second from Representative Katowski. Thank you. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this motion that's on the floor? It's a motion to veto, and so we need a 2/3 vote of the entire membership, just to, Representative Whitehouse.
Could we get a summary of what the effect of this ordinance would be and purpose for it? So why it should pass or why it shouldn't, or just so we know what we're talking about?
Sure. Thank you. Again, John Reiner, Director of Planning and Development Services. The purpose of this ordinance amendment was to reduce the size of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the regular members from 7 to 5. There will still be 3 alternate members, whether once this ordinance passes or does not pass. One of the items that we have trouble with is having enough people to fill all of the slots of our boards and commissions. We have a lot of boards and commissions within all of Groton, between the town, the city, Groton, Long Point, and Noank. So right now we have land use commissions that don't have full quorums, or full capacity. We have quorums for them. And as one of the speakers earlier today had talked about, having a group that would have 7 regular members and 3 members as alternates, we actually don't even have space for where they currently meet now to seat 10 people at a table. So in the CR2, the meetings that we have right now for the Planning Commission are generally the same night as our town council meetings. But from a logistical perspective, filling all the seats on our boards and commissions is difficult. Most of our land use commissions are 5 members of permanent members as well as 3 alternates. So really it's just being consistent with what our other land use boards and commissions are currently made up of.
Thank you.
Representative Cologne.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to ask one question. How long have the positions been open for, the ones that have been vacant?
So the Planning and Zoning Commission was combined effective, I believe it was July 31st of this year. So this is just Prior, we had a separate zoning commission and a separate planning commission. Those have been combined. So right now, as it currently stands, there are 2 open positions. We have 5 permanent positions filled, as well as the 3 alternate positions filled. There are 2 vacancies right now, and those are those 2 extra positions. So they've been vacant since the group has been formed, since basically July 31st, August 1st of this year.
Thank you. Representative Osman? What?
Okay, you said that they have no room for where they meet. Where do they actually meet?
Right now, the Planning and Zoning Commission meets in room CR2, the Community Room 2, in the Town Hall Annex on Tuesday nights.
Okay. Would it be a better option to find another area that can actually have better capacity?
We could, and as you heard from one of the Planning and Zoning Commission members tonight, actually having that many people on a board or commission makes things difficult, just the amount of time it takes getting through the amount of discussion on an application. All of our other land use boards and commissions have 5 permanent members.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Bailey?
That was exactly the same question I was going to ask.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Representative Katowski?
Thank you. I don't support this ordinance, and I was putting together my comments, and then we got this email from Natalie who said it so much better. So everyone has read this email. But I would like to add one thing. After the Director of Planning has talked about all the different items he's working on, there's going to be a lot of important projects going through the Zoning Commission. Now, the one that I'm most interested in is the Mr. Girl School property. Now, whether you support the Mr. Girl School property project or not, I would like to see more people be involved in the decisions. So that's one of the main reasons why I would like to keep things the way they are and have this committee commission have 7 members. Thank you.
Representative DeCillier Fleming?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Are the public able to come to these meetings and ask questions?
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily matter if the commission is bigger or smaller because the public has input whether they're on the commission or not.
Correct.
Thank you.
Representative Powers? Sean? No. Representative Casper?
Oh, thank you, Madam Moderator. I have a question. So far, all the discussion has been the planning side of it. But what about the zoning part and the extra workload that adds to the commission? That was planning, just strictly planning, if it's 5 members.
So the extra work, there really isn't. So we just recently rewrote our zoning regulations, and one of the things that we did was looking at how we can streamline the process. And in areas where before approvals may have been required, where it was standardized that, okay, well, if you did all these things, we had to approve that. A lot of those items, we've just created those development standards and actually put them in our regulations now. So there are some items which will now create less work or less approvals. In addition, excuse me, prior to there being a combined planning and zoning commission, if someone needed a special permit for their application, they would have to, at one night, go to the planning commission, and then on another night, go to the zoning commission. Now, those 2 items happen in the same night, so it's actually creating less work. It's before one board or commission, but when you look at applicant time, staff time, streamlining our development process, it's made things clearer and easier. And we've actually seen that with some applications already.
Yeah. So it reduces staff time, but what does it do? I mean, are the members of the commission going to have their workload reduced?
Through the rewriting of the zoning regulations, the amount of items that would have had to go to a board or commission before has been reduced. In addition, many other communities across Connecticut have a combined planning and zoning commission, and it works very well.
The town clerk would like to speak, and then I have Representative Thomas.
Well, I happen to have, thank you, Madam Moderator. I happen to have the fortunate experience of being on the council, or not on the council, at the council meetings when the council was discussing the actual combining of the two. So this was 2 councils ago now, and it was really a combined effort between the planning staff and the town council that really came up with the idea, and the size was debated. And what was taken into consideration was the rewrite, the new zoning rewrite, and what would be the best would be to have members from both zoning and planning together. Well, as it turned out, there were a lot of hard feelings, and I'm not going to serve on it because it's going to take us twice as long. And so it turned out that there were 2 people from the zoning commission that applied before it actually took an effect. They applied in January of last year. The ordinance took effect in July of this year. So and they were appointed as alternates because the idea was to shrink the commission. So I don't have an opinion of one way or the other, of course, but I wondered what was the wisdom to have it 7 members to begin with? And the argument that most of our boards and commissions are 5 members, that's not entirely true. We have larger members than commissions that are bigger than 5, but we are the largest town in southeastern Connecticut, too, to take that into consideration. So maybe all those things were in play. I'd love to hear Representative Flax's opinion, because he was the mayor when that proposal was put into place. And if he had something, I don't know, I'm begging him to speak.
We have someone I can, we have Representative Thomas, and then we'll circle back if you want to.
But that's some of the history anyway.
Norwich is bigger.
Norwich is bigger?
Yeah, Norwich is bigger than Groton. Representative Thomas. Sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question. You said you had 5 permanent on the board right now?
Correct.
Or on the commission? And there's 3 alternates?
Correct.
But there's 2 vacancies. How is it you have 3 alternates and 2 vacancies? Can't you just move the alternates into the vacancies?
We could. The town council, when they appointed the vacancy members, because before when we had a separate zoning commission and a separate planning commission, there were vacancies on, I believe, on both of those commissions at the time when they were separate commissions. When they, after the effective date of combining them, at that same time, the town council was working through this ordinance. So they appointed those members as alternates in anticipation that they passed this ordinance. So they didn't want to appoint extra people to the Planning and Zoning Commission to then say, okay, well, we passed an ordinance reducing the number of it from 7 to 5, and now you're off. Or now you were a full member, and how do we determine who's an alternate? So right now, the way that they appointed the new members, because 2 zoning commission members, when the zoning commission was abolished and combined the duties of that with the planning commission, they volunteered their time to be on the planning and zoning commission. So it's only very recently that we have gotten 3 alternate members.
Okay. Well, so if that's the case, then if this ordinance gets vetoed and then you stay at 7 members, you could have 2 of those alternates step up and fill the spots, right?
We could, and then we'd have 2 vacant positions as far as alternates. And again, we get back to that situation of we have a very hard time recruiting people to serve on boards and commissions.
What is the recruiting process for finding people to serve on boards and commissions?
That is the town clerk and the town council puts notices in the paper, gets the word out on the town webpage. It's the town, for the Planning and Zoning Commission, it's the town council that appoints those members. The same with the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as a number of our land use commissions. Some are appointed by the Economic Development Commission is appointed by the town manager, but our decision-making bodies are appointed by the town council.
Understood. Thank you. I just would like to say, in general, like the idea of I'm a firm believer in more inclusive government, so I would want to err on the side of keeping the number at 7 and finding, casting a wider net, finding maybe a more creative or ambitious way to pull people in to serve on these commissions.
Representative Flax, would you like to speak to this issue?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. We did debate quite a bit about the size of the combined zoning and planning, and it came down to the 7 and the 3. And I think a lot of it had to do with the quality of the decision that was being made and the number of people who were making that decision. I would support not going through changing the ordinance. I'd personally prefer to keep it the way that it is. Some of the reasons that have come up and have been addressed by other representatives, I think, are valid, that if there's a space issue, certainly we can find a space in the town where they can hold a meeting and accommodate whatever needs need to be accommodated. And there was something about the public being able to make comments at a meeting. That is true, but they're not decision makers. So they can still, they can speak, but they don't have a voting opinion, of course. And so having the 7 members and 3 alternates there to have a greater, again, for me, quality of decision. So that's my recollection.
Representative Dean Shinbrat.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I just recruited someone for you. My husband's sitting over here. Comes to a lot of RTM meetings, and he'd be happy to be on planning and zoning. So, just throw that out there.
Representative Chase.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So prior to the consolidation, you had 5 and 3 on each of those, the planning and the zoning, correct?
There could have been 5 and 3. There were not 5 and 3.
Okay. So is there a problem with having 2 vacancies? I mean, so in other words, what's the difference of having 5 and 3 now as opposed, or 5 and 3 as opposed to 7 and 3? What is the problem with having a vacancy?
So if you have,
we only have 1 now from.
theoretically, yes.
Yes.
And actually, you don't have that because you appointed somebody.
Yeah. So if you have a board that's 7 members, but you only have 5 people that sit, you need to have a quorum of 7 people. So if more than 1 person can't show up to that meeting, you don't have a quorum. And then the meeting doesn't happen. And then things take longer. And when you have meetings, which this becomes quite common.
Isn't a quorum for 7, 3? Or
4.
4? Okay.
It's a majority.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Simple
Okay.
majority.
All right, so prior, again, to the consolidation, you had these 2 commissions, and they had to do, each body had to do their work, and then they had to agree. So, correct, in order to pass anything?
Not necessarily agree, they each had different duties as part of the review process. So the zoning commission would review special permits, which has a very strict set of criteria, and the planning commission would be reviewing site plans and subdivisions.
So to me, that would be more cumbersome than what we have now with the 7 and 3. Yeah, that would be more cumbersome. And I forgot my other question, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Whitney?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just remembered.
Oh, so that's fine.
I get it, Jen. This body makes very important decisions for this town, and I would hate to have 2 or 3 people making a decision for the entire 40,000 people in this town when it's a really important, because this is the development of our town. So in my opinion, the more people on it, the better. Thank you.
Representative Whitney.
Just like to say, I agree with those points that the space in the room issue is easily solved. It's logistical, and it seems like getting other members is just a measure of recruitment, that active recruitment. But my question, and so I think that we should veto this because more is better in this case. But my question is, prior to this, in the new model and then the prior model with 2 commissions, how many times was quorum a problem, like actually not met?
Many times. Actually, before the consolidation of the Planning and Zoning Commission, there are a number of meetings that we couldn't have because we didn't have enough members of the Planning Commission.
But is it, 10% of the time, once a year?
It was a number of times per year that we were having issues with the quorum. Sometimes we just had something before our Historic District Commission, which I don't believe we have a full membership of that right now, where an item had to be continued because we had 2 members recuse themselves and we didn't have enough people for a quorum. So this comes up with a number of our boards and commissions. Does it happen every month? No, but it does happen frequently enough, and many times we don't know until the night of the meeting, and then things have to get continued.
And the recusals you brought up, that would still be an issue. It wouldn't be affected by a number of people.
Can you use the microphone more effectively, please? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying the recusal issue is not a factor of how many people you have, I think.
Well, if you have a full board and a full number of alternates, if 2 people recuse themselves and you had 3 alternates, then that's where those alternates would actually come in. So some of these boards that we have not had, again, it's the town historically has had some trouble recruiting enough people to fill all these boards and commissions.
But the reason we don't have a full board right now is because the town council decided not to fill it because they're passing this ordinance.
That's a good point.
All right.
In this particular instance, yes, because they knew this ordinance was going through, but it's still an issue finding enough people.
Representative Washington?
When the Planning and Zoning Commission meets, who tells them when to meet? Do they decide, oh, we're going to meet, our next meeting will be January the 13th, or do you say the meeting will be January the 13th? I mean, because that could have something to do with it, too.
They set a schedule at the beginning of the year. Traditionally, they meet twice a month on the, let's see, they met last night, so what was it, the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, I believe, every month. So they meet the same Tuesdays every month all year round, and they've been doing that for longer than I've been here.
I have to agree with Representative Flax and Representative Thomas. I think that the more people we have involved in our government, the better it is, especially since economic development is going to be very key in this community. So the more people that are looking after our interests and the interests of the town, the better off we are.
Thank you. Representative Melo Miller, we have a lot of people, so it's not like I'm not calling. I have a long list at this point.
Thank you. What's the simplest process to bring developers in? Do you understand my question? How can we streamline this? Is this the best way to streamline for developers, for people trying to?
Making sure that we have a commission that meets, that has a quorum, that knows the rules, and that we have people on our boards and commissions that come from a diverse background of the town, but also that they understand the rules and ordinances that they actually have to apply.
And what's the difference between 7 and 5 members in terms of how quickly these can get through?
It means meetings will take longer. There'll be additional debate on matters. That's one of the items that one of our Planning and Zoning Commission members brought up tonight.
Okay, and then one more question. I believe someone asked earlier, what was the length of how long is it taking for something to get through right now?
Every application is different. It might take 1 or 2 meetings, and it also depends on what they're asking for. So last night, I'm trying to think of an application. The Oyster Club was on the Planning and Zoning Commission agenda for doing some improvements to basically just remove some of the rock ledge, so then they can understand how much space they have to do additional improvements. They're going to come back later for the approvals on the actual expansion. So sometimes it takes multiple steps depending on what the applicant actually wants to do on the site.
So right now, you're saying it's taking at least a month for a developer to get through just on the commission? Way more? I'm sorry.
Oh, at least. I mean, just from our regulatory process, between the time that they submit, get plans that meet the standards, going through an internal review process, and we try to get things on the agenda as quickly as possible. But they'll need at least one hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission before they can get approved, depending on the complexity of the project.
So from your viewpoint, is this a way to streamline, to bring business in faster? Will this make it easier for businesses to come in?
I think it'll be easier for businesses to come in as long as we have boards and commissions that can meet and that we don't have issues with a quorum. And again, that was the main driving factor behind this. Again, if everyone on the RTM also helps recruiting people for our boards and commissions, okay, great, then we'll have more people on our boards and commissions. But in the time, I've been working for the town for a little over 5 years. I've seen a lot of problems getting people on our boards and commissions, getting younger people on our boards and commissions, getting a diverse selection of people on our boards and commissions. That, you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission member who spoke tonight said most of the people we see on these land use boards and commissions are people that are retired. We're not getting age diversification on these. So if you're going to veto this, you know, help us get a diversity on our boards and commissions.
All right, Representative Lambert?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I have a question. So if a submittal is received, the clock starts on the acceptance of the proposal whether we meet or not? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so then does not having a quorum mean that citizens can't offer comments since there is no meeting?
They can't offer comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They can give staff comments, which we can relay, but if we can't meet, that becomes a problem.
Okay, so can you repeat that again about how they could submit comments?
People could still submit comments to staff, which we can relay up to the Planning and Zoning Commission. But when people come to a meeting and make their points heard, that's, I think, the most important way of doing it.
So having a lower quorum would allow the people's voice to be heard in front of the Planning and Zoning Committee?
Potentially.
Okay, so then, so what would be the ramification in terms of a plan moving forward if there is no meeting to review the submittal? Does it open the town up for things like lawsuits if we don't properly review something because it went through without having a meeting?
Yes, we have not had that issue come up. We would hold a special meeting. We would find a way of getting a quorum to happen. It often just adds delay in the time frame of where things go and how quickly things can get approved if there's a lack of a quorum.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a representative, I'm sorry if I messed your name up, Cassieri? Cassieri. I'll get it right.
My question is, when was the last time there was a reasonable effort made to recruit people? And my reason for asking this is if we made a reasonable effort a year ago, we've had an entire year, or is it active? Is it always an active recruitment?
Well, the recruiting process with the Planning and Zoning Commission is something that the town council does. Things go through committees, through, I think there's
parties.
Political parties.
Yes.
We advertise on GMTV. There's scrolls on the Groton Senior, their billboard. They scroll things on there. It's on the website. Yeah, there's when you say active, it would be great, just like the director said, if all of you took a look at the register and say, my neighbor would be great on Historic District Commission. You know, it's the more people that try to recruit, the more active it'll be. So
thank you.
That's about it.
Thank you. Representative Whitehouse?
So I must admit I'm not completely familiar with what, I understand that zoning and planning does something that developers come in, they got a plan, a meeting happens, and then hopefully they can do their plan. But the commission, are they basically just comparing what they see to a set of rules, and if they follow the rules, then they say, yes, this passes, or do they actually have a lot of discretionary authority?
They have a fair amount of discretionary authority. If someone meets all of the rules, then basically for certain approvals, they have to pass them. For special permits, there's a lot of discretionary authority there. When you start getting into things like zone changes, lots of discretion there. Is it consistent with our plan of conservation and development or not? Our Planning and Zoning Commission does have discretion in their powers.
I disagree with I like the idea of open government, having more people involved. That's why I'm a huge fan of the RTM as a body, because it lets more people be involved. But I've been on many boards and organizations, and one thing I've found is that sometimes more is not better, because when you have 9 or 15 or 21, there's more people who might be, I don't want to say free riding, but they're just kind of, they're there, they might throw in a comment, but they're not as active because everyone else can carry the load. Or the other challenge is if you have to fill a larger body. As part of a nonprofit that had a board that had to be 9 members, which meant the 8th and 9th members were warm bodies we could find to fill chairs, and we finally changed the bylaws to lower it so that we had people who really wanted to be engaged. My concern is if we're really actively recruiting because we need to fill these seats, we may not be getting people who are fully engaged or who have the time or who are really interested in it. On the flip side, it is better to have more people involved, but I don't think it's as simple as more people is better. I think that it seems like there can be a benefit in a working group like this where smaller could be better. And am I correct that the gentleman who spoke before is on that commission? Okay. And it seems to make sense that the people on the commission and on the staff have the most direct knowledge of what would work for that commission. So I'd be inclined not to veto this ordinance, because it seems like the people who are closest to it are in favor of this, and at least I know I personally don't have enough information or compelling reasons to want to veto this, and I think many of us are in that same position. So thank you.
Thank you. Representative Jones?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So my question is, you gave us a fantastic list of developers and projects that are coming to the town. By not having quorums on these commissions, are we at risk of losing some of these projects, or the developers getting frustrated and walking away?
Frustrated, yes. Potentially walking away, yes, if we didn't have quorums. Also, I think different points that were brought up. Just because we have more people on a board or commission, so 5 members, 3 alternates, there's still 8 people that are actively engaged in the conversation that's happening. And that brings a good variety of different opinions. As time goes on, as a meeting goes on, when meetings are going till 1 o'clock in the morning because there's a lot of debate, items don't always get addressed that evening. They need to get continued. So sometimes having additional people, additional debate, it's good in some respects, but then if it's repeating and going over some of the same things, it doesn't always work out so well too, because then it drags on the amount of time of an agenda or a meeting. So
and as the Director of Development, are you getting any sense from developers who want to do business in Groton that this is an easy place to do business or a difficult place because it takes them a long time to do their projects?
I think historically, a lot of developers didn't like coming here because multiple steps, a planning commission, a zoning commission, our zoning regulations weren't streamlined. What did we have for economic development policies? A lot of those things weren't in place. They are now. We've already gotten a lot of positive feedback about the combined Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as how much easier it is to use our new regulations and the new regulatory process.
Thank you.
We have a member who's attending virtually, and he wishes to speak. So Representative Foster.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I guess I just have one thing to say. Thank you to the town clerk for making this possible for me to attend this meeting remotely, and maybe that could be possible for getting a quorum on the commission. But really, I just have a question. My ignorance on the rules Is there a way that we can just move this to a vote?
Is that a motion?
Second.
So are you making a motion to move the question?
Yes.
So there's a motion, it's not debatable, so you can pause now. And we have a second from Representative Wells.
No, Bailey?
Well, I heard Bailey, oh, I thought I heard, sorry, Bailey.
It's always
So this is, needs a 2/3 majority of members present. All in favor of calling the question, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please raise your hand.
I have to write them down, sorry.
No, wait.
Lambert.
The people have questions. We should be
Lambert.
yeah.
Casper. Chase. Katowski. Richards. Eben.
Richards, I think.
Yeah, I got
you.
Richards.
How many is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it passes.
Okay, so that is, how many do we have?
40.
We have 40? So that passes basically 34 to 6. So we have a motion on the floor, and let me just explain that motion, which is we can only veto it, and that is 2/3 of the members, not just the members present, but of the members, which I believe is going to be.
It's 41 members.
Yeah, so it's going to be, no, it's going to be at least 29, because it has to be.
41 members is 28, 2/3.
Well, it's a little shy of 2/3, right?
Well, you can't do exact, right?
Right, so I would round up so you'd have 2/3.
Well, it's 42.
Round up, right? I'm going to
I've
go
been
with.
using this since 1967.
But it's 29. 28 is just not 2/3.
We just used the same thing for moving the question, so you didn't question it then. So. I mean, this is the same thing we've been using forever, so. Okay, so I'm going to read the roll. You say yes to veto, no, not to veto. Oh.
Yeah, I will restate it, that's fine. So there's a motion on the floor to veto the ordinance. The ordinance is found in your packet, and what the ordinance says is that it changes the number of people on the Planning and Zoning Commission from what it is now, which is 7 members and 3 alternates, to 5 members and 3 alternates. Our membership has only the capacity to veto that with a 2/3 majority, which I would say is 29, but 28, well, and 28, we'll go with that. Is that clear, Representative Baker?
Yes, so if we vote no, that means.
No, you're correct. Yes to veto, no to not veto.
Yes. No means you accept what the town council has already passed. Yes means we wish to veto it.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. And we'll do a roll call vote.
So does everyone understand how they're voting? Yes means you want to veto this ordinance and keep it at the original 7 members. If you say no, then you want to continue with the ordinance to reduce to 5. Okay. Representative Adams?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Baker?
No.
Casper?
Yes.
Kasari?
No.
Chase?
Yes.
Colin?
No.
Crockett? Ooh, boy. Crockett Hubbard?
Yes.
Dean Chinbrot?
Yes.
DeSiller Fleming?
No.
Driscoll?
No.
Eben?
No.
Fitzgerald?
No.
Flax?
Yes.
Fortner?
No.
Foster?
Yes.
Frickman? Gothier David?
Yes.
Gothier Lauren?
Yes.
Gustafson?
Yes.
Hanscom?
Yes.
Jones?
No.
Katowski?
Yes.
Lambert?
No.
Luck? Melo Miller?
No.
Merritt?
Yes.
Osman?
Yes.
Perry?
No.
Powers, Kristen?
No.
Powers, Sean?
No.
Richards?
Yes.
Rusk?
No.
Salva?
Yes.
Starkley?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Wells?
No.
Whitehouse?
No.
Whitney?
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah. 22.
22.
It doesn't veto.
Yeah. That fails. I have 22 to 18. Is that
Correct.
what you have? 22 to 18. So that does fail. So we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is adopting a meeting schedule for the coming year. Is there a motion?
Second.
I didn't hear the motion, but I did hear the second.
I thought you made.
No.
There's a motion from Representative Richards to adopt the Groton RTM 2020 meeting schedule, and there's a second from Representative Bailey. Thank you both. So take a look at it. We did, I just want to point out there's one on a Thursday, because I think there was Veterans Day, as Representative Bailey pointed out last time. So.
That's a good catch.
Yeah. Yes, Representative Bailey?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. The May 12th should be May 13th for a Wednesday, because May 12th is a Tuesday. And if I remember correctly, Representative Chase brought up January 1st, or not January 1st, but January of 2021. It should be, the 6th should be a Wednesday.
February 12th is a Wednesday, so it's got to be 13th, right? Yeah.
Which is a...
February is a Thursday. I thought Dawn fixed all this.
Now I'm really super confused.
Yeah,
I'm
so am
sorry. Representative Chase, did you want to clarify something here? I don't want to have two people on the floor, but I do want to just hear.
This was revised from the last meeting, is that
Yes.
correct?
I was told it was.
I
Yes.
do not, I went through this with the calendar. I did not see any flaws in it.
I did too.
Except
But
we found one.
I'm going to check.
That was your, you changed the calendar again?
Yeah, they changed it because,
Never mind.
they
Yeah,
changed
May
it because.
13th
Is a Wednesday.
is a Wednesday. It seems correct, because I just entered it in my calendar
It
today.
is,
Right.
yes, yeah.
The only thing I just wanted to note was there is a Thursday that popped up, because it's
Because
like
of
a little
Veterans
different.
Day, yes.
It's out of our norm.
Yeah, the 13th.
So is there any discussion on this? Any other discussion on this item? I will ask all in favor to say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say same sign. Any abstentions? All right, that new meeting schedule passes. Thank you. So there is another item on our agenda, which is the budget discussion, which kind of is out of order just on this. And if there is any desire to mention the budget discussion, we can also move on to other business if there isn't. I saw Representative Katowski had her hand up.
I had other business.
I got it. No, if there is no, it's a little premature to have this, but I always want to have it on the agenda if there's someone who wants to discuss it. So let's move to other business, and then I'll call on Representative Katowski.
Any suggestions for the Rules Committee? Should we just mail them to the town clerk, or should we give them to people on the committee?
Yeah, I would suggest giving them to the committee.
Okay.
And if you could CC me, that would be great.
Okay.
And so I hope that the pro tem, the temporary rules committee will meet before our next meeting. And I will also be meeting with the floor leaders to convene some committees. So I'll be emailing you guys so we can set a time to do that. Okay, thank you. You're not sitting. Is there any other business? No? Well, I want to wish you all a really peaceful and happy holiday season. And this is we'll see each other in the new year, but, I hope you have safe travels if you're leaving and going away, and have wonderful time with your families. I would at this time entertain a motion to adjourn. Representative Adams and I think Representative Bailey seconded it.
Second, yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.